Continuing down the news purge, a quick couple of notes on the drug war front, the perhaps failing and flailing and perhaps most frighteningly stealthily morphing war on drugs. Our first note, hidden in a Wisconsin national forest, it's a marijuana megafarm. Northern Wisconsin's Nicollet National Forest is a vast, verdant getaway for hundreds of thousands of campers, hikers, and anglers every year, but hidden within was a marijuana megafarm. Apparently, megafarm is a real word that the Associated Press will use. Investigators say a band of Hispanic men turned the forest's southern tip into a giant pot farm, growing thousands of plants on remote plots, moving supplies along forgotten logging roads, and buying supplies and ammunition at local stores. Nobody in law enforcement has said it publicly, but the style matches that of Mexican cartels that have been using public land in the United States to grow vast amounts of marijuana and avoid the risk and expense of, smuggling the drugs across the border. Just to be sure, it's a plant that grows on the earth naturally. It wasn't hatched in a biolab. It wasn't genetically engineered. Whomever your creator god or beginning events are, put it here for a reason. But on the flip side, from the Christian Science Monitor, Calderon on Mexico's drug war, that's the president now, and he says, stay the course. Stay the course on the corrupt and completely, utterly, illegally, brutally, murderously failed drug war. And again, they make more money off keeping it illegal. And of course, this ties in with the border wars, with the immigration wars, and all of these things are happening, of course, by design. We didn't just suddenly forget how to secure a border. We didn't just suddenly forget how to deal with health issues and drug issues. It's all, unfortunately, happening by design. Do I have an answer? No. But hopefully forewarned is forearmed, and more information will help us all make better decisions. Let's move to econocrash. And it's ugly. Economists herald new Great Depression. You can see this headline all around. But we're going to grab this from Steve Watson. Figures comparable to 1930s, central bankers have stood in the way of recovery. The world currently experiencing the modern-day equivalent of the Great Depression, according to a prominent economist who has added his voice to the scores of others now forecasting ongoing economic doom on a scale not seen since the 1930s. Now add Robin Griffiths, technical strategist at Cazenove Capital, told CNBC last Monday that he sees the stock market bottoming out in October as the world has entered significant financial depression. A double dip is inevitable and imminent. And Keynesian stimulus measures have never worked anywhere. We are in the equivalent of a Great Depression following 3 years of credit crisis. That's the thing to remember. The stock market of the Great Depression happened in October of 1929. It wasn't the Depression the next day. It took about 3 years for everything to pretty much completely fall apart. And that's unfortunately what we're looking at as the summer gets hotter, and again, these sort of events and memes of riots and revolt are being stoked and prodded and praised. We're building up to perhaps some type of October surprise, to use that oft-abused phrase. But on down the econocrash list, Federal Reserve downgrades outlook for U.S. We also note from an article on Bloomberg, and this is a great one. Lawrence Kotlikov notes that the U.S. is bankrupt and we don't even know it. And again, there's a video report. It goes through a lot of stuff, perhaps worse than Greece. However, as we already said just a few moments ago, one thing that is not mentioned in any of these articles, correctly pointing out the doom situation that we're in because Western finance oligarchs seized control of our money-making operation back in 1913, implemented even more in 1933, right as the Great Depression was about to kick in full. The war machine. You want our economy back, you want our environment back, you want all these things back. That's it. CNN Money asking the question, is this finally the economic collapse? Student loan debt now surpasses credit cards. That's from the Wall Street Journal, and I'm sure that ties in with folks essentially using school as a hideout. Fascinating from the Associated Press, there was a money fair showcasing $100,000 bills and rare coins. I'd like to go further into that and all the interesting kind of implications that, again, as they being, of course, the multi-generational serial killers that have hijacked everything, they buy the real and sell us back the fake. And occasionally that'll let us look at it in their foundation, corporate-controlled art galleries. I was watching something about the Annenberg versus the Barnes Museum in a documentary called The Art of the Steal. But continuing, U.S. electricity blackouts skyrocketing, making references back to the summer of '77, as I was about to be born. And there are, of course, massive blackouts in New York City, Son of Sam, raging. David Berkowitz, interestingly enough, caught the night before I was born. Wells Fargo must pay consumers $203 million in an overdraft case. Again, that's from Bloomberg. And again, we can pay off your petty $1 million settlements. It's a loss leader. You think it's going to hurt our bottom line? We'll pay you, you'll shut up, and we can continue to consolidate our power structure. Go back to reading People and Us and watching your TV shows. So here's the story that when I bookmarked originally said, yeah, a lot of people showed up, but there were no injuries, and there was no violence, and there was no arrests. A couple hours later, I checked back. Story has changed. They changed it out from under my link, and that story turned into 30,000 mobbed Atlanta Housing Authority offices, and we can get that again from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And before we hit the clip of this event, we'll, again, get the question from endoftheamericandream.com. Are the economic riots already starting?
The East Point Housing Authority estimates 30,000 people were on hand when they handed out public assistance applications. It was a chaotic scene as people complained about the long lines and standing out in the heat. Despite that, the Housing Authority called the event a success. Channel 2's Tom Jones is live in South Fulton County. That's where he got stuck in a crush of people trying to get an application. Tom.
Yeah, it got kind of scary there for a moment with so many people willing to run you over. I mean, literally run you over to get one of these. That's after many spent the night here to get one, so when the doors opened, they were ready to rush in.
Look at all these people.
Even though it was chaotic.
It's a mess.
And there was mass confusion.
They should have this more like organized.
As thousands of people stood out in the searing heat.
2 kids just got hurt out here. People is passing out.
To get a public housing assistance application.
It was a success today.
The East Point Housing Authority called the event a success. That's because they expected 10,000 people to show up, and they say they had to deal with 30,000.
And we gave out over 13,000 applications in under 3 hours.
It wasn't easy. When officials realized they couldn't get everyone in the building, they had officers meet people in the street to hand out applications. That caused a feeding frenzy, one I got caught in. Hey, you're crushing me. But in the end,
They tried to take my paper application, and I really need this.
people like Keisha Brown got the application they prayed for. It only puts them on the waiting list to get assistance, but that doesn't matter to Brown.
We're going to pray over it and hope God sends us a blessing.
Now, 62 people were treated by EMS, mostly for heat exhaustion. 20 people taken to the hospital, including a baby who had a seizure. Police say with all the people out here, they didn't have to arrest anyone. Now, we could see a repeat of this tomorrow. That's because the authority is allowing people to drop off applications at their office on Norman Berry, although they are asking people to mail them. They say they will be prepared, but they said that today. We're live in South Fulton County in East Point. Tom Jones, Channel 2 Action News.
There you have it. Are the economic riots already happening? Are they being fostered?